So now we know what CE cache is, but why use it? The answer to that question is performance. If you follow the E hashtag on Twitter, there's a good chance you've heard some crazy, outlandish tale of how someone got this awesome performance boost by using CE cache. And while the salesman in me wants to make it abundantly clear that all of those stories are incredible and true, I also want you to understand that, on some of your pages, you may not see these huge, amazing performance boosts. However, you should still see some performance boost. And also on some of your heavier pages, you will definitely see a performance boost. Since everyone loves a good example, I want to show you guys some numbers. Here we can see the causing effect site running in one of my development environments. This one is actually running on my computer in WAMP. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pop open the Firebug debug console and take a look at some of these pages. Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and clear the cache so that we can make sure we're getting the fresh version of the pages served the first time, and then after that we'll look at the speed difference for the cached versions. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on clear entire cache for all drivers. This will make sure that all the caches for all the sites, for all the drivers, are all completely deleted. Now we can go back over here. We're going to pop open the Firebug debug console and refresh the page. So we can see that this page took 610 milliseconds to load. Now if we refresh the page, it's down to 234 milliseconds. So I mean, it's roughly 3 times faster, and it's loading in a quarter of a second here on my development environment. Now if we click on work, this section's a bit heavier. It's looping through the full contents, I think, of 2 channels, and some of these, like this channel, has a whole bunch of relationships in it for all the different services that are related to each portfolio item. But anyway, so this took 1.37 seconds the first time, and if we refresh the page now, it's under a quarter of a second. And now the software page is a beast, and this is actually one of the reasons I initially wrote CE cache, is that I wanted to be able to do some heavy lifting in my ExpressionEngine site. There was really no way to make this happen before. So anyways, in the software page right here, I'm looping through all of my different software, and there's a lot of stuff going on here. It's pulling in like the price from the the cart module I'm using. It is displaying some data from the channel, and it's also scraping devotee pages for the vote and favorite counts for these different add-ons. So like I said, there's really just a lot going on this page, and this page took 10.68 seconds to load, so almost 11 seconds to load. Now if we refresh the page, it took 319 milliseconds, so about a third of a second to load this big heavy page. Now we can cruise through the documentation, and pretty much every page we're going to see similar improvements that are cached. My documentation pages are actually using CE string to load markdown files and parsing the markdown files for the first time. So by caching these pages, not having to load the files and not having to parse the files and display it, so it saves a quarter of a second or so. So like I said, it's not the biggest performance boost in the world, but it still is pretty significant, and there's no reason to constantly be running, constantly be processing that data on every page load anyways. So okay. Oh yeah, another thing to note is that in this development environment, I'm just using the file driver right now, so there's nothing really fancy going on here. And obviously, since this is a local development environment, we're not taking into account like network latency. I'm not having to fetch this data from my server in Chicago. It's it's right here on my computer, so as soon as it's done processing in PHP, it's just served right up to my machine. So these load times look pretty quick, but if we actually look at the page source, in my footer I have a little elapsed time ExpressionEngine tag. We can see that this page is actually being rendered in 0.2 seconds. So yeah, it's not bad. We can also switch over real fast and look at the live site. So I'm going to go ahead and just refresh this page. It's already cached, and it's serving up and getting to me in a little over half a second. And if we look at the elapsed time it took to actually render this page, it's actually 0.06 seconds, give or take. So as you can see, this is being served up just extremely quickly. And we'll look at over here at the software page too. Again, it's loading in under a quarter of a second. Comparing these two environments is like comparing apples and oranges, because my development environment here is running on WAMP on my computer. My live site is running on a Unix server in a data center. There are also several configuration differences. My local version here is using the file driver, and my live version, I think I'm currently using memcache with a database fallback. Oh, and even some of the ExpressionEngine config settings are different between the two installations. There are a lot of differences between the two environments, but obviously what I'm trying to show here is that the page load times are pretty reasonable, first of all, and also they're greatly improved with the use of CE cache.